This episode is sponsored by NordVPN. More on that later.
Attaboy.
Oh, what the heck?
Oh, I'm so jealous of your 10 Pro Fold.
I like it a lot, but I get... No, we'll talk about it.
Hello and welcome to the Android Police Podcast. My name is Daniel Bader.
My name is Stephen Radosha.
Yes, it is.
It is. Can we just address something personal before we get into the main show? I'm sitting down to dinner Friday night, look at my phone, and I straight up lulls. Like I full on laughing. My wife asks, "What's going on? What are you laughing at?" I show her the message. I sent you an image of my poor feral cat, who I take care of, and would you like to share with the audience your assessment of my poor outdoor cat?
What I said was that cat has seen some shit. The cat has seen some
That's
shit.
it. That's all he said.
So
he didn't say anything bad. He didn't say that. I sent him a picture of this cat because we talked about him on last week's episode. That was the quote. 4 words. He's seen some shit. I like that. Nothing about him in general. I just started dying. It killed me. It absolutely killed me.
I mean, you should post this photo though, because
I'm
Mowgli
going to send it to
has
Jules.
absolutely seen some shit. Like, this episode is sponsored by Mowgli and the things that he has seen, because that cat is experienced.
He's in rough shape. He's in rough shape. He's found a home here for a reason.
You're a good dad. You have given that cat. I mean, he's not a small, unfed cat. Like, this cat.
No.
Is buxom.
Yeah, he's a beefy boy. He's a bit of a chonker. He's a beefy boy. He's the most well-fed outdoor cat you're ever going to see. That's
yeah. So, props to you for keeping him in.
Well, that made me laugh. That
good
was
enough shape.
That killed me. That killed me. Usually you get, he's cute or whatever. He's like,
I don't know, man. He's not cute. Like, I won't give you that.
No, he's not.
He's
right.
Cat.
He's got like cute in that kind of ugly way. Like,
Yeah, he's like cute as if like Scarface was cute.
Yeah,
like
only
that.
a mother can. Only a mother.
He's
can
like Al Pacino in the 80s cute. Like, he was a boy once, but he ain't a boy no more.
No, he's a man now.
All right.
Boy.
So listen, we did promise a podcast this week, and
did.
we are giving the people what they want.
At 2 in 2 weeks, this kind of pacing. I'm not an athlete. You need to,
We'll go easy on you, but I do want you to talk for more than I talk this time, because I've tended to do the opposite in the last few weeks. And you have 2 foldable phones that you've been evaluating over the last couple of months, and in the past couple of weeks in particular, the Google Pixel 10 Pro Fold. The embargo for that lifted as we're recording, so you're free to talk about it. You wrote your thoughts on the site. So before we get into the larger question of the state of foldables in 2025, what are your thoughts on this one in particular?
So I really like it, but it's a very confusing, and I like when I'm confused by phones because it means it's something different. It means it's something you got to think about. And the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is absolutely one of those phones, because I really wish, we're going to talk about the Galaxy Z Fold, I really wish these two could have a baby, because you really have the perfect foldable. But the things that, it's an odd thing, because Google, and this is what I mentioned, it feels like Google's goal with the Pixel 10 Pro Folds was to come up with the first practical book-style foldable. But by nature, with an $1,800 price tag, the way that these things function, they're not the most sensible phones. They're not really meant to be practical. But if you're somebody who likes foldables and needs one for productivity, which we'll also talk about because of the Tensor G5 and those things, this is the one to get, because of the things that you mentioned in a previous episode that were really the big reasons why you'd buy it. Battery life, outstanding. This is the first, and this is why I love it as an enthusiast. Now, I'm pretty upfront about who I am and what kind of customer that I am. This is great. I didn't charge this last night. I went to bowling. I took it off the charger yesterday morning, went to bowling, showed it to a bunch of people. They're all like, oh, let's see the internal display and all the rest of it. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm at 45% battery life left without it having touched the charger in well over 24 hours. That to me is really nice to have in a smartphone. That to me means that I can have this thing open all day long and just rock the internal display, which is why I spend $1,800 in the first place, and not have to worry about it, and not have to worry about battery life. And the other thing that I'll mention is the durability, which obviously is not in the back of my brain because I use these each year. So I'm not as afraid of these foldables as others are. But I think I wrote this in the piece as well. Whenever I have a new foldable that I'm testing, the second or third question out of somebody's mouth is always, well, it's going to break. Well, it looks for, oh, well, can you take that outside? Can you take it, whatever? I might not, people watching this podcast, people reading stuff on Android, please, don't even think about that because they're enthusiasts, they're not as worried. But I'm telling you, if you're trying to get this into the hands of more casual users, that makes a difference. That IP68 rating, even if it's just kind of lip service, just a stamp on it, whatever, that makes a difference. You don't have to wonder where you're bringing your fold. That's another thing. $1,800 device. Do I want to, oh, I'm going to be out in the dust today, or I'm going to be at the beach, or it's a rainy day. Those things sit in the back of people's minds, especially if they're not enthusiasts. So I think that makes a huge difference. And they both have, but there's drawbacks. There's drawbacks, which we'll talk about, which is it's heavier. It's a device when you pick up a Galaxy Z Fold 7 and then you pick up one of these, you're like, well, of course I'm going to buy the Galaxy Z Fold 7. But the conversation is more complicated than that.
So, I mean, it's probably important to say that from an MSRP perspective, there is a $200 difference, right? So the Fold, the the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, still a bad name, is $17.99, and that's the same price as the 9 Pro Fold. The Galaxy Z Fold 7 went up in price by $100 this past year. It is now $19.99. So, at that point, it's very minor. Like you're paying $1,800 or $2,000. You're paying capital a lot of money for a phone. If you are going to spend $1,800, you might as well spend $2,000 if it's the right product for you. And I have seen a bunch of reviews, and I've read a bunch of reviews already of the Pro Fold. And I think the vast majority of them are saying pretty much what you said, that this is an excellent product with a number of significant upgrades, but the sum of its parts still yields a worse result than its price would suggest.
Right. That's complicated. And it really, and it seems like when you're talking about these devices and you're spending that kind of money, there is a certain bar that you have to get to. And now I'm an enthusiast, so I like it because I can use the internal display more because of the battery life and all those things. But it's odd that usually you'd think of the Pixel device as the more consumer-friendly, casual one, and that's been Google's plan with the Pixel 10 lineup all along, going after iPhone users, not really worrying about raw horsepower, focusing on AI. That's all meant for casual users. But the 7, the Z Fold 7, also an awful name, is the more casual-friendly option, but it has a noticeably worse battery. But it has more power. It's an odd, they both strike a very odd balance. Because if you're an enthusiast and you want to edit videos on your Fold and you want to game all day on your Fold, then you're going to pick up a Galaxy Z Fold 7 because of the extra power under the hood and all the rest of it. But you're going to get noticeably worse, but you're going to have to be connected to an AC outlet in order to be able to power you through your day. Whereas the opposite's the case with the 10 Pro Fold. You're able to make it through the entire day, but those things you're really not going to focus on. So if you're performance oriented, then you're going to get the Z Fold 7. If you're productivity oriented, you want to use the thing like I am, then it's the Pixel device, which is just a very odd balance between the two.
I would push back a little bit on the battery life claims for the Z Fold 7. I use the phone pretty extensively. I rarely felt like its capacity was too low for me to sort of get through the day. Like maybe it's slightly more power hungry than a typical slab phone, but like it's fine. And I didn't feel like it was something that would hinder my ability to recommend it.
No, I agree.
think the Pixel, even the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, which I used kind of as my daily driver last year, was awesome for battery. Like I thought it was a great phone. If you've listened to the podcast, you know my travails in trying to get MagSafe on the back of that thing. So, I did what I needed to do to make that thing part of my kind of, Qi 2 life, even a year ago. And I think the three things that you talk about, right? Excellent battery life, the MagSafe being built in, which is so useful,
Nice.
right? So useful. And the IP68 water and dust resistance. The last one is the thing that I think is the unsung hero of this phone, because it's the first foldable ever that you could take anywhere. Anywhere. Like, yes, there's the consideration of foldables are a little bit more vulnerable to the elements, especially if you're using the internal display. But having a fully sealed hinge is a complete game changer that I don't think people understand the significance of, because this means the precedent is now set. Every single book style foldable in the future needs to be IP68 water and dust resistance, or it will not be competitive, right? This means the Galaxy Z Fold 8 will need to have that same spec. Otherwise, it won't be competitive. And that is a massive, massive deal, because it's taken since 2019, since the first foldables were available, for this to come to fruition. And if I'm somebody who just wants to use their phone and throw it in my pocket or in a bag or whatever and go to the beach, go on vacation, I don't want to have to think about whether I should put my phone in a Ziploc bag to go to the beach, right? Like,
absolutely. And sometimes I have to decide which pocket, like with other foldables, if there had been tissues in my pocket or something, sometimes I won't put I'll be that careful with it, because it just removes that barrier to entry for so many people who would have otherwise given a foldable a shot. Because yes, we talk about $1,800 and we talk about $2,000, but for the most part, especially in the United States, you're going to your carrier with your beat up Galaxy S22 Ultra and handing it into Verizon and saying, hey, can I get my $800 credit on whatever? And then you're paying your $35 a month. So the price is certainly a consideration, because you're still paying that one way or the other, whether it's in installments or you're paying it all at once. But I think more people would be willing to give a foldable a chance if they get that through their head with this peace of mind, whereas like this isn't as fragile as you think it is. It isn't as fragile as it maybe even feels a lot of time, because of the display technology and the fact that it hinges. So I think that's definitely the thing that will bring this out of, it's always going to be a niche product because of the price. It's always going to be boxed into that. But I think if you're going to see more people holding, I've seen one book style foldable at a non-tech event out in the wild in X amount of years of these being available. So I think you're going to see a lot more of these, and people take a chance if they can understand that they're not going to fall apart at the first bump, or their first time it rains is not going to fritz out on them.
I also think this brings up a point that, like, you and I have shared an experience. Are book style foldables incompatible with parenting? Like, this is an expensive phone. Your kids are going to pick up your phone and try to use them. They're going to throw them. They're going to mess things up. Like, is it not a good idea to buy a foldable phone if you're a parent of young children?
If they can start opening it, it becomes challenging, because I don't really want her bending it the improper way. She knows,
or poking at it, frankly.
Well, that's poking.
Your nails are sharp, man.
Open. The nails are sharp. Well, see, so it's a little different. So she's allowed to do whatever she wants with my wife's phone. She can toss it about, but she knows, because I have so many loaners and stuff, that I always have 2 or 3 phones. I mean, she's not allowed to touch Daddy's phone. But I see your point, and that is a challenge with that. So that might be the next thing that you're looking at, as far as kids being a little rough with these things. Now, I did have a chance to use and I'll show the viewers, the people watching the podcast, I did have a chance to use the Made You Look feature, which does the kid-friendly, it doesn't show up right, but the kid-friendly whatever. Now, it did get my daughter to look at me. Whether I didn't exactly get a smile, she kind of looked at me funny, probably was asking for a paternity test at that time, but it was a very
it's goofy. Like the dog. It's like the dog.
Yeah, it was kind of like, what are you doing? Like, what is that? It was the one where the cat was eating the fish out of the bowl, but it gets their attention. And you can turn up the volume, and it does things. So I understand what you're saying, though. If you're somebody who leaves your phone on the ground and you got a kid that's a toddler picking everything up, probably still not the best option. But my wife's got an iPhone 16 Pro Max, and that thing is tanked up for her to have it. So I think either way you're going to be in trouble. So you could just put one of these massive cases on this one, and maybe one of the locking locking fold over ones that you can kind of put a whatever on and keep them from
So that
opening.
brings me to my next question. The 9 Pro Fold bucks, or 10 Pro Fold rather, bucks the trend of slimming down and lightening the book style foldable. We were waiting for the same thing with Samsung. That finally happened with the Z Fold 7. Does this make it much harder to recommend when you have the Z Fold 7 in hand and you're using it and sort of understanding the advantages of having a much slimmer device and a
It's
lighter
tough.
device?
And that was so I picked this up and I hadn't had the Z Fold 7 because I had just been testing the Pro XL and a couple of the other Pixel phones. So when I started using it, I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad. You know, it's a little heavier, but I get a 5,000 plus milliamp hour battery, so it's fine. And then you pick up this guy, and it's basically like holding an S25 Ultra, which you can do. And I think it's better because the hinge, the frame, even though it's folded over, the point that you touch is thinner. It's just really, and it's just so difficult to go back to that once you've held something like this. And you understand, yes, trade-off is the battery. Even though you want to talk about the Honor Magic and some of those other ones, the Find N5, that they didn't sacrifice battery even though they're thin. So that's another conversation to have, and we can talk about the battery tech in here. But I do think that and that's why it always makes it, if you're a first-time foldable user, while the durability makes you go Pixel 10 Pro Fold, the form factor and using it, because it's an easier transition. I'm using a regular slab phone. Hey, this kind of feels like a regular slab phone in the hand. Plus, you got that 6.5-inch display that's wider. It's just such a complicated conversation, which I love.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about silicon carbon because
Yes.
a lot of phones are moving in that direction. Basically,
Yes.
every foldable from China has a silicon carbon, including the Find N5, the Magic what was it called?
V5. V5 is
V5.
the current one, I think. Yeah.
And you know, it's hard to know why companies like Google and Samsung are not moving in that direction. Similar with Apple, I think it will happen at some point. We talked about this on the show last week, but it makes a difference, right? The Find N5 has a 5,600 milliamp hour battery inside that shell. It's basically the same thickness as the Z Fold 7. So that's an extra, 1,100 milliamps, right? That's significant.
Yeah.
And it's just worth pointing out that, like, this is a solvable problem now to some extent, right? We know the long-term reliability of these cells unclear, blah blah blah, but like it's still a lithium-ion battery. It's still like familiar technology. It's still pretty reliable. It may be a cost thing, but if it's a foldable, that shouldn't be a consideration,
Right.
really.
And that's the thing where you worry about. You're saying, like, when you talk about these being for niche products for enthusiasts who are spending $2,000 on a phone, they're used to that. They want that. They want the cutting edge technology in their foldable. This isn't the one that has to be down the middle of the runway. This isn't the S25 Plus that has to sit on the carrier shelf and be the reliable phone that if you ever did have a Note 7S type disaster again, it would sink or it would be a big problem for your company. That's not the case over here. I think that people are a bit more tolerant of, not experimental, I don't think at this point, since it's been used in so many devices now, but more of that cutting edge technology getting into these $2,000 foldables. I think people have a bigger appetite for that than they would, say, in like an S25 Plus. I understand why that one doesn't. I have my problems with Samsung. I complain about it all the time. Why they innovate? Why are we running back this design for the 4th year in a row? Why aren't we increasing these battery sizes? Why aren't we going to silicon? All that stuff is fine. But Samsung doesn't care because it wants that to be the safe choice. It wants that to be the whatever choice for people. I don't think you have that burden when you're looking at a Z Fold 7.
Well, I think as a community, we forgave Samsung a little bit too quickly with the Z Fold 7 because the Z Fold 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 were the same phone. And we lambasted them year after year for not upgrading the hardware, basically. And yet, with the Z Fold 7, we're like, oh, finally. But everybody who bought a Z Fold 3 to 6 is like, yeah, well, what about us? We still spent $1,800 on these things. And it's a difficult thing to say because you're right. Like, the people buying these phones are enthusiasts. They're enthusiasts to the nth degree. They are nerds like us that really care. But unlike us, they are buying one phone to keep for multiple years. And,
Right.
unlike you, I actually have met a bunch of people who have used book style foldables. I've seen a lot of them, and I annoyingly interrupt them on the subway or on the street and say, "Hey, I notice you have a Z Fold 4 or 5. Like, can you tell me about your experience? Have you had any problems with it?" I myself had a screen protector that was tearing off my Z Fold 4 that I took in for repair, and the process was super smooth. And I got basically a brand new phone out of it. They didn't give me, obviously, replace the phone, but like the screen protector being
Sure.
redone meant that there was none of that hinkiness on the internal display anymore.
Good. I mean, but you had that seems to be what people complain about with Samsung, though, is they said, that, well, okay, if the repair were easier, or if the Samsung store experience were nicer, but that's good that you had a good experience, because Samsung customer service, whenever I hear something, is always some sort of horror story. But that's the internet in general. But it's good you had a good experience.
I think the Samsung customer service experience is second only to Apple. And it's because they are expanding their retail footprint. They just announced 3 additional stores for the US, I think today. So it's slowly but surely becoming more of a retail company. And they are getting better about repairing their foldables because the infrastructure is coming. They are on the hook in the US and the EU to make their phones more repairable. So they are taking steps to make those phones slightly more repairable. Foldables are still very difficult to repair. They're very expensive to repair. The parts are tiny, and if your hinge breaks, like, you're basically
That's
done.
it. Yeah. Call that
But
one a day. That's it.
but I also I want to bring it back to the hinge on the Pro Fold
Yes.
10 Pro Fold, because this is a gearless hinge and it's much smaller than on the 9. Tell us about that experience. How different is it? And how different is it from the Samsung foldables that you've used?
So I always prefer, even on the original Pixel Fold, I always really loved Google's hinges. They always felt nice. That was the close on that device was phenomenal. And this is roughly the same. It feels solid. It gets to the bottom of it, and it just kind of gets that last little bit. It's a very smooth action, and I love that. And the Z Fold 7 one feels good as well. It's a bit more inconsistent. It's a bit looser, I guess is the word. But if I had to choose between the feelings on the two, I would certainly choose the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. It's just an
Right.
overall more secure action. It's a smoother action, and it's just a nice close on this device. This device feels really nice. But I prefer, and maybe I'm biased, I preferred the Google hinges for years. The original one, of all the things that got wrong on the original Pixel Fold, the hinge wasn't one of them. And I think that this one is even nicer. Really, just really nice action across. And that gives you, and that goes back to the IP68, all these things. That gives you kind of, if it feels solid, that gives you something in the back of your mind, okay, this isn't going to break. I could carry this around.
I talk about the Samsung retail experience because Google basically has no retail infrastructure or repair infrastructure, right? They partner with You Break I Fix, I believe. So there are third-party repair stores that will accept Pixel folds, but you're still not dealing directly with Google, right?
No.
It's expensive, but you also just don't have that reassurance. Google's RMA process is sketchy at best.
Yep.
And I don't know how it is today, but as recently as last year, I know of people that have sent back Pixel 9s that just had an awful replacement experience.
And we saw it recently with the 6A and the 7 with the battery issue that they were saying. They were having a bunch of people send it back, and it wasn't going well. The customer experience with Google was not going well for people who were trying to get relief for their battery issues on their 6A and their 6 and those Pixel phones that had issues recently.
So it's reassuring to know that the phone might last longer because the gears and the hinges are better and more robust. But at the end of the day, I don't know if I would just rather have a Samsung phone because you're getting a better repair infrastructure in general than you are with a Google phone.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And that's why I said at the beginning of the show that I really love if these two had a baby.
Yeah.
Because if you could somehow get these two to where you could combine those features, because it's a fascinating chart. If you were to set the pros and cons of these two devices side by side, there's like one over here that's a really good point, and then there's one over here that's a really good point. We haven't talked, and yes, Samsung made a huge deal about upgrading to the 200 megapixel camera, which is great. But I've always preferred the camera on the Pixel foldables, and this is another phenomenal one with the 5x zoom and the pictures that this thing takes. Just still, I think the best camera on a foldable, which is something Samsung crowed about on the Z Fold 7.
In
so
the US, I would caveat that by saying in the US, because the Find N5's cameras are superb.
Oh, sure.
And Honors and Huawei's, like, that's not really in the same ballpark. No. But yeah, in the US, I think you're probably right. That's actually a great segue, because I wanted to talk about the cameras. I think it's a missed opportunity not to have upgraded the camera hardware in the 10 Pro Fold, because they kept the thickness of last year's, and it's actually slightly thicker and heavier, but without new sensors. They did not utilize that additional, and obviously it's still a thin foldable in the sense that, you know, the Z space when it's open is very limited. You don't have the same area that you can cram a very large sensor into, or multiple sensors. But at the same time, the fact that they did nothing to upgrade the optics year over year is a huge miss, especially since, as Samsung has proven, you don't need a huge amount of Z space to have a very large sensor in there. And I just think it undercuts what makes a pixel in a lot of ways, because you're spending $1,800. They solved the hinge problem. They solved the ingress problem. They can't seem to solve the image problem, right? They can't seem to solve, and granted, you can't solve physics, right? There's only so many things you can do when you have a small space with a physical image sensor. I get that. And that's why Google is becoming overly reliant on generative AI and super res zoom and things like that. I totally understand that. But I do believe it was in their purview to upgrade the hardware on the cameras here, or at least to show that that was a priority. And it very much was not, from my perspective.
No.
Like, I enjoyed the photos and video, well, not videos, because the video kind of sucks, but I enjoyed the photos on the 9 Pro Fold. And I assume the 10 Pro Fold is basically identical.
Yeah. And the one thing is something that they not solved, but it seemed like the color temperature was better on the 10 Pro XL, just the regular slab phones that I got. But when I took photos with the 10 Pro Fold, that kind of starkness came back, and that kind of drabness. Now, it's easily fixed in edit. It takes 2 seconds in editing, but who wants to do that? When you pull out the Z Fold 7 and you take those photos, and Samsung is, I'll give them credit, they're better at this. It's more social media ready, which matters to people. I know I could sit there for a couple minutes and edit a photo, and for crispness and clarity and motion, the Pixel 10 Pro Fold is significantly better than the Z Fold 7. But at the same time, I would like a little warmer temperature on there, and I don't think that's completely out of the question. Just make them look a little bit better without that other. I thought Google had moved past that with the Pixel 10, because a lot of those photos are a bit more saturated, but we seem to have gone backwards with the 10 Pro Fold, a little bit starker than I would like.
Yeah, it's another reason why I just don't get it. Like, I don't get it. They had a few extra weeks of tweaking a bunch of stuff here, right? This came out a month after more than a month after.
Couple months,
the slab phones, right? Android 16 is well into its life cycle now, and yet it doesn't seem like they use that time to markedly improve the software experience.
No.
And if you think about the year-over-year upgrades, you know, on paper they're meaningful, but as a whole, I cannot really glom onto like why somebody would want to buy this phone over a Z Fold 7.
Yeah, well, here's another. There's a good thing you brought that up, because this is another one, an odd one that then swings me back towards the 10 Pro Fold a little bit. Multitasking and app pairs are significantly better on the 10 Pro Fold than they are on the Z Fold 7, which is an odd thing to say, because the original Pixel Fold didn't even have app pairs, which was a bizarre oversight. But you have now, if I want an app pair, I could just go in. I won't bother showing it because of the glare. I could long press an icon. It'll tell me to go into split screen. I do that. Then I pick the other app I want. Then when I go up into my view of seeing all my apps open, there's literally a drop-down menu that says Save App Pair. And I could go back and forth. The 90-10 multitasking is better on the Pro-Fold as well, just switching back and forth. Still not open canvas, all right, like we got on the OnePlus Open, but it's better. Whereas on Samsung, on One UI 8, I have to do all kinds of things to get to it. It's not as intuitive, and app pairs and multitasking is so important on these larger display foldables that's another one. But it's a weird one. But you said it's just an odd. I think that's my theme. Is just there's so many things that would sway you either way from these two devices, and it's odd to come up with that profile of who's the customer besides the enthusiasts. Let's put those people aside. The enthusiasts are going to buy what they want to buy. Who's the profile of the customer that picks up the 10 Pro Fold? And it's hard to put a finger on it.
I completely agree. And I mean, again, this is not available in the US, but Open Canvas is on ColorOS, which is on the Find N5. It's kind of the best of both worlds. I'm not saying ColorOS is a better software experience in general than the Pixel experience or One UI 8, but I wouldn't put it past Samsung to bring 90-10 multitasking to One UI 8.5, which should be released shortly. Right. And I'm interested to know, like, as a foldable experience, right? This is largely like the linchpin of why you would buy a foldable. You think that the more simplified, focused version of multitasking on the Pixel is better overall than the sort of feature-rich, multi-menu alternative on One UI 8?
Yeah, and that's why it's an odd mix, because I do think that, like we said, physically, picking up a Z Fold 7 is probably better for casual users making that switch. But software-wise, I do think that Material 3 Expressive is better for newer Android users or people who want to switch over to a book-style foldable. But then those other features are missing. So I do like the easy multitasking. That's important to me. Now, Open Canvas is great. These are great. I still don't understand why no one has, and this is a slightly more landscape view on the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. I don't know why there hasn't been a manufacturer that has stolen Microsoft's multitasking on the Surface Duo, where I can have individual apps, one on one side of the screen and one on the other, and I swipe up with one that I'm done with. I don't have to get rid of the entire pair. I can swipe up with one of the apps and then pick another app and go in. I don't understand why no one has done that yet, but I would like to see that on one of these foldables, and that will instantly be the one I recommend to people, the first person to do that. And it should be Google, because they have the wider, slightly wider internal display.
So I know the answer to that, and that's because Microsoft's Android hacking, which was not great overall.
No.
It was very, very hit or miss, treated that like two distinct displays.
Yes.
So Android was able to throw content from one to the other unless you explicitly said, treat this like a single display, and then you had that delineation down the middle. Whereas on a book-style foldable with a single display, you can't do that. There is no demarcation line within Android that says, okay, split this in half and treat it like a separate display. And without that, you have to use the APIs that Google has made or Samsung has made to sort of split the content in half, right?
Right. Well, the rumor was, though, that the Duo 3 was going to be a single screen, like a Pixel Fold, like these regular foldables. That was an awesome catch, by the way. And it was going to maintain that multitasking. So I don't know how Microsoft was planning on doing it.
Badly, but I don't know. I can tell you, it was going to be not good. Is my final answer. No, I mean, look, I agree with you that some of the Surface Duo ideas were incredibly, incredibly good. But same with Windows Phone 7, and like that thing died. It needed to go. Like,
I love the Surface Duo, but Android 10 was unusable.
It was bad. It was just a bad experience overall. They made a lot of changes to the underlying way that apps are treated, and it's kind of like BlackBerry's Android versions, right? Like they made too many underlying changes, and it broke a lot of the experiences. So, I mean, remember when the Passport was initially supposed to run Android, and they pivoted? Like that's because it just didn't work.
No, I mean even the apps that did it ran what it run runtime of Android 4.4 something like that. But it was a wonky experience with the Android apps for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, it ran Android, and props to them for getting it to work. But yeah, just oh man. Anyway, we should totally do a BlackBerry retrospective on this show.
Oh please, I still have the Pearl here from the last time we talked. Hold on.
I have so many BlackBerry phones sitting in
well, these are the
basement.
Unihertz devices, but I got a lot of keyboard devices hanging out. These are the Unihertz devices. But
shout out to our friend Crackberry Kevin for the Bring Back BlackBerry campaign. Go to bringbackblackberry.com.
Yes, absolutely.
Hey,
speaking of shout outs, is there something that is there something that we're supposed to go over? Was there a company that perhaps we're supposed to mention or speak of? I could vamp for as long as you need.
You can read my mind.
Oh, excellent.
This episode is brought to you by NordVPN. Right now, Android Police listeners can get 75% off NordVPN's best 2-year plan. And when you sign up, you get 4 months free. That is 4 months free on top of a discounted 2-year plan. That is,
120 days.
Count them. Ooh. Yeah, that's a lot of months. That's
many months.
28 months, according to my math.
Well done.
Thank you.
That was without Gemini, by the way. That was off the top of his head.
The top of my head. I still have it, folks. I didn't need AI for that one. It is very, very inexpensive right now. And why would you want NordVPN over, say, one of the competitors? Well, it's extremely fast. You get 10 devices per account. You get leaked credential protection. You get tracker and ad blocking. And it is all included. None of the other VPNs come with all three of those things as part of their plan. I have used NordVPN when I travel. The app is slick. It is fast. There are hundreds of servers that you can find for all over the world. In fact, earlier this year, when I was in Mexico and I needed to stream an HBO show, and I could not do it because my provider was geo-locked, I pretended that I was back home so that I could get that season finale. And let me tell you, it was worth it.
Absolutely.
So I won't say what I did, what I watched, but it was great. So that is NordVPN. To sign up, go to nordvpn.com/AndroidPolice. That's one word, Android Police. nordvpn.com/AndroidPolice. Thank you to NordVPN for supporting our show. And thank you, listener, for clicking on our sponsor link. It really helps us out. All right. I want to talk about vertical foldables for a second.
Yes.
Because I finally got my grubby hands on a Motor Razr Ultra.
Ah, my favorite.
Yes, I know it's your favorite. And I love this thing, right? I had the Motor Razr Plus from 2024. And this thing is so much better. And yet it's exactly the same. And I don't know. I mean, like Motorola is just on a roll here. So I'd like you to tell us why you think this is such a good product.
It's just so it's well done. I mean, Motorola has its own problems as far as software updates and support. You don't know when you're going to get them. When it gets Android 16, I don't know. My daughter might be in kindergarten by then. You can't set your watch.
That's fair. That is true.
And there's a lot of downsides to it. But as far as just sheer usability, sleek, nice, because you got to think, when you're talking about the vertical, when you're talking about the clamshell foldables, there's a certain measure of that that's about style and design. I think Moto does it better than anyone else with the Razr Ultra. It's powerful. You got excellent battery life on that device. But to me, the killer feature is the external display. I don't need good lock. I don't need multi-star. I don't need to set up. I don't need to keep opening and closing it. Samsung on the Z Fold, Z Flip 7, they give it this large, gorgeous, bezel-less external display. I don't even care. I'm not a badge carrier in the bezel police. I don't care. But you notice it on that device because it's so thin and gorgeous. And yet I still have to keep opening and closing and changing panels and have 2 panels for apps because good locks is on. Enough. Nonsense. Motorola, I'm using Instagram, I'm using Facebook, I'm using whatever, Slack, WhatsApp in seconds on the external display. They nailed the external display experience. They nailed the design, colorful, gorgeous, great sales. You always get a huge discount on Moto stuff. Phenomenal, phenomenal device overall.
And I mean, to be fair, at its retail price of $1,300, it is not worth
No,
it.
it was a no-go. Right, yeah.
Don't buy
Correct.
it at $1,300,
Correct.
but right now, I think you can get it for under $1,000.
Yep. And that makes it absolutely worth it.
Also, I just wanted to point out, because right now it is, yeah, it's $1,000 right now. I wanted to point out that right now, as we're recording, and I don't know if it'll still be here for by the time you hear this. In fact, I'm sure it won't, but Black Friday is coming soon. The Z Fold 7 is on sale for $1,585 on Amazon right now. So just considering the fact that you're not going to find the Pixel 10 Pro Fold on sale for a few months yet, kind of a no-brainer if you're thinking about which one to buy between the two of them.
Absolutely. Because you think about it, so you want to bark at the price. You were paying $1,300 for your S25 Ultra. Let's say you got a terabyte version. You're already up $1,500 anyway. And you pick up one of these. I think that's anything under $1,600 on really either of these. But you really get to that sweet spot. We're like, why don't I take a chance and just try something different? And it's just a phenomenal feeling phone for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, $1,589 or $1,585 is still a lot of money, but like it feels more palatable in
Which is,
some ways.
do you ever think that you would be saying that? Coming from the
look,
generation that we come from.
I agree with you, but I also think like the precedent has been set.
Oh, sure.
For the last 5 years, phone prices are going up. So I think it's never worth buying a Samsung phone at launch because the company always puts things on sale, especially when you think about the life cycles, right? By the time Prime Day comes around in July, the S series is always available for $200-$300 off. And then Black Friday comes around and the foldables are always $200-$300 off. So yeah, I don't know. And then it just becomes easier to justify buying last year's model as well if those are available.
Well, we talked about this because of the software update. I mean, if you're getting 7 years of support, it's not the conversation it used to be where, okay, we're already halfway through the support cycle. I'm going to get ripped off here. No, you buy the Z Fold 7 on sale a year from now. You still got 6 more years of One UI updates.
Well, I just saw yesterday that the S22 Ultra is getting its final software update with One UI 8.
Right.
And that's okay. I mean, that's 4 years.
That's the 4 years, yeah.
Four platform updates. That's great. I don't think that's a problem, but these newer devices are getting 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So this one launched with One UI 8. Like there's still 7 platform updates. That's significant.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the durability, that's why then you look at something, the 10 Pro Fold a year from now with the increased durability, then that becomes a better deal on these foldables. It used to be very difficult to recommend used or pre-owned or older foldables. The Fold 2, forget it, the Fold 3, but now they're a little bit more robust where you can recommend maybe a renewed one or something like that a year from now for a lot less money.
Anyway, going back to the Razr. So I agree that the front display, as tiny and seemingly fiddly as it is kind of a game changer when you're using it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I just like, so what, and you don't think of it, and I love how easy it is. Like if you, like if people think that, oh, the camera humps get in the way. No, just hold the gesture, boom, you can change the orientation instantaneously. It's just and that's the one thing. You're buying these devices, they're not disconnect devices when you buy a clamshell foldable, but you buy it in hopes that you're going to get some usefulness throughout your day, like that 5-minute Instagram scroll that you don't want to turn into an hour project. That you kind of scratch that itch on that outer display in a way that it's just too. I was hoping when I saw that outer display on the Z Flip 7 that Samsung had found a way to integrate a bunch of the good lock stuff into One UI 8, but it just doesn't seem to have happened. It's disappointing. But I'm glad you've seen it on a Razr. I've written about this a bunch. Every time I'm at an event, every time I'm not testing something, which is never now at this point, my sim is back in the Razr Ultra, and I love it.
Yeah, I very much regret but like transferring my physical SIM to an eSIM for my primary line has proven to be more frustrating than I expected it to be.
I've never had an eSIM experience that did not end with a call or a text chat to customer service or technical support. Ever.
Yeah.
Now, the Google to Google ones work well. I don't know why. Was something Google does with the transfer, but every time down the line, I've been fine. But trying to go to another device hasn't happened.
Android to Android has fewer problems. iPhone to iPhone
Yes.
has fewer problems, but iPhone to Android and vice versa. Actually,
Right.
no, that's not that's not true. Android to iPhone is good because Apple makes that fairly easy. It's the other way around. It's
Right.
iPhone to Android that's difficult. What other hardware stuff do you want to talk about? Are we all good with foldable stuff?
Yeah, I think, but I wanted to remember your point from earlier about the camera systems on the other devices, and that goes down the line. Like
Mhm.
we have both used the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, and when you see the natural depth of those images, the portrait effect, just not even in portrait mode, you're just taking regular photos, but because of the
Yep.
1-inch sensor, because of all the things when you use one of those cameras, and then you come back to these cameras that we have here in the United States on the Galaxies, everyone thinks, oh, these are so impressive. They're not. Let me tell you something, they're not. When you get spoiled using those overseas devices. And when that technology is in your foldable, we're in the kiddie section over here when we talk about a lot of the photography stuff, because a lot of it's being done in the back end. It's not being done with hardware. Maybe I'm a dinosaur for this. Maybe it's old man yells at cloud. You could do all you want on the computational side. It's still not going to beat more data and a bigger sensor just coming in and then having that stuff on top of it. But just the natural just effects and depth you could create with a better sensor, and those lenses that they have in those cameras are phenomenal.
Yeah, it's too bad that I have to use Xiaomi's software when I'm using that phone. Because
do we have to build like our own Dream phone, like we Dream Foldable, with like the cameras on the Xiaomi, the software from where?
Yeah, I mean, a few years ago, like that was what we all did, right? We wrote our articles about like our dream phones, and we would Frankenstein bits and pieces from each one. But using HyperOS is like using a knockoff version of iOS now, and it's just not. It's not enjoyable.
I can't, and I don't get that. I don't understand that. I don't understand why those companies feel they need to do that. Is it because iPhones are so prevalent there, and that's who they're trying to get to switch? Is it like just kind of an odd, maybe if we make it more friendly, they'll buy, or what?
It's aspirational. It's not a matter of like they want iPhone users to switch, because Xiaomi is the biggest phone maker in China,
right? Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Oppo is like the second biggest. Huawei is the third, or whatever. They all look like iOS because iOS is the cultural cornerstone of mobile software. Apple as a company influences culture in an outsized way, and it has reflected in Samsung in the last year. It's reflected in many companies, basically, except Google. And it's just interesting now that Google feels like the lone holdout, because if you use One UI 8, you're basically also using, I wouldn't say a knockoff of iOS, but certainly it's more influenced by it than ever.
And you say that if you were to ask us both right now, what's the favorite Android 16 skin out there? Which one is it?
Favorite?
Well, favorite version of
my
Android
favorite,
16
or
right
like
now.
people's favorite?
No, your favorite.
My favorite is the Pixel.
Right, exactly. So that's the one that's the holdout that's different, and that's the one that's our favorite. So that's
correct.
Maybe there's something there.
There is something there. I mean, for all of our criticisms of Google's hardware, Android 16 and Material 3 Expressive is beautiful. It's very, very well done.
And it's given life to my old device. I used it on the original Pixel Fold I downloaded, my Pixel 6. It transformed my Pixel 6. And it's smoother. Like, it performs better. It was just really nice. That's rare to see. And that gives me hope that these 7 years of updates aren't going to be nonsense. Like, a lot of people said, who cares about 7 years of updates? Let's see them do it. They're not going to run like garbage. Okay, well, we're X amount of years on, and Material 3 Expressive is a phenomenal experience on my Pixel 6. So how much deeper do you got to go to where you have faith that these updates of 7 years and 6 years are going to actually mean something and add value to the phone?
I mean, you're not using it on the 6A because it's a flame in a garbage can. But other than that,
I have a family, Daniel. I have to watch out for their safety.
Working great on everything else. Yeah. All right. You want to cut it there? I think we're
good.
We've given the folks what they want, and
that's it.
we haven't
We gave them another episode. What they want is one next week. But we could talk about that.
We'll see. If there's something worth discussing,
there you go. Well, I go to something on Tuesday that I can't talk about. That maybe if I could talk about would be interesting.
Oh, now I have
special
the
event.
Head.
Well, special event on Tuesday.
Well, we can end the show as we always do with what's making us happy.
Yes.
Stephen, what is making you happy this week?
So the result wasn't good, but hockey's back. My Rangers lost to the Penguins last night in brutal fashion, 1-0, pulling the goalie with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. New coach. We talk about this all the time. New coach, somewhat different players. It's a uniform. Sometimes it's just a uniform. The Rangers won a Stanley Cup when I was 10 years old. I'm thinking, this is phenomenal. We got Messier, we've got Larmer, we've got Leach and Mike Richter in goal, and all these phenomenal players, and nothing. For 30-something years now, nothing. Just garbage. I watched them. In the last year, they could score 6 goals, but give up 7. And last night, we lose 1-0 to an ancient Sidney Crosby and the Penguins team. But I'm glad hockey's back. I get something to because I don't rant enough. So it's good to get these emotions off my chest. And hockey allows me a chance to do that.
I feel for you. It being beaten by a 38-year-old is embarrassing, frankly.
And it was bad. We changed the coach. Somehow, the assistant coach that we have now was our head coach a few years ago, David Quinn. I don't know who I that would be an odd. If I'm the head and then I go back and I'm not, that would be an awkward transition. But the Rangers are one of the most frustrating professional franchises to watch. And I got quite the list because I'm a Knicks fan. I'm a Dolphins fan, which is a disaster in the NFL. I'm a Red Sox fan. Thankfully, we have success there because my family's from Boston. And now a Ranger fan, which I've had very limited. I was teased with a little bit of success and then nothing.
Well, I mean, at least you've had a couple of good years with the Knicks.
Yeah, but they're another one. They'll get so far and they get injured and they lose to the Pacers. They start up soon.
They will, I think, have a very good year this year.
I hope so. They'll play defense for sure, and they won't get worn out.
You've got a very strong lineup. I'm excited about basketball. I'm very excited about basketball. I am so excited about basketball, actually, that I just signed up for season's tickets with the Toronto Tempo, which is the upcoming WNBA team.
Oh, very nice. When did they start? When is that?
It's May to September, so it's basically when basketball's over. I mean, there's an overlap with the playoffs, but when the NBA begins its playoffs, it basically the WNBA season starts. It's a much shorter season. It's only 42 games.
Because the finals is going on now, right? I believe.
Yeah. Right. It's
Las Vegas.
Exactly. And
somebody.
I'm just excited because I want my daughter to enjoy basketball. The prospect of going to even a single Raptors game is just like financially completely unfeasible.
Absolutely.
A bad ticket is like $300. So being able to go to see some of the best basketball players in the world at a cost that is not like completely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And the stadium is much closer to my house, and I want my daughter to be inspired by them and, see these amazing women play basketball. I'm just pumped. Like, I'm so excited that the Tempo is coming. And like, I think there's another expansion team. Detroit is opening,
there are a few,
starting next year.
Yeah.
There are a few more planned for the next few years. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, WNBA, I have my issues with like the fact that the women in the WNBA are not paid nearly enough, and they don't have the same bargaining rights as the men in the NBA. But like, I feel like eventually that will equalize to some extent. And like with women's soccer and many other women's sports, women's tennis, for instance, that's much more balanced. Like, the women and men get the same prize money at all the majors, right? That took a very long time. Mm-hmm. But now everybody knows Serena Williams. Everybody knows, some of the best women's players. And if I have the ability in 5 years from now to say to my daughter, like, these Tempo players are like world renowned or whatever, that would be amazing. So I'm happy about that.
And it's all about the cost for the sports for kids, because thankfully we have a good minor league team around here for baseball, because you can't. If I were to take her to one Yankee game, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't do that to my poor child. But if I were to take her to a Yankee game, it would be, I don't even know, $1,000. By the time you're done with parking and you got to get free tickets and all the rest of it, and God forbid you have a hot dog, it just gets done. But they have the Sussex County Miners. We got a local team. They do stuff for kids. You could sit in a box seat for like $12. They have the $1 whatever soda night and hot dogs, and every Saturday night home game during the summer they have fireworks. So it's just great to have these like you said, like ways to get kids involved with some sort of professional sports entertainment that's not, to take out a mortgage. I don't have to go on a firm and take out a loan or something like that just to go to a game and enjoy something.
Yeah, get your
daughter.
knees broken if you don't pay it back. Well,
full
to
loan
be,
shark.
you're not a New Yorker necessarily, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from when I say that I hope the Jays destroy the Yankees tonight.
Oh, I hope so too. I'm right there with you. I'm a Red Sox fan. I hope so. I was disappointed last night. I was disappointed last night when they didn't finish the job.
Well, they did. They were up 6-1.
Up 6-1. How do you drop the ball?
Aaron Judge
kicking the
is
ball
what
over.
happened.
Oh, but the guy dropped the ball in the fourth, though. He's never getting up in that situation.
It was just a bad game all around. However, I am a story Torontonian. I never hold out hope for success in the playoffs for any of our leagues.
Well, you saw. Oh, come on. You saw. Oh God, what was the guy's home run against the Phillies in the World Series? Joe Carter. You were alive. You were around for.
I was not in Canada
Series?
at the time. I was. Still a baby. I was still a South African child who had never heard of baseball. Never mind watched that one. But I did see the Delgado home run in 2015. So that was one of the best experiences of my Jays watching career. And I did see the bat flip. That was incredible.
Oh, Guerrero's home run the other night that ball still hasn't landed yet. In Game 2, where he just absolutely crushed it. That's how it only went 427 feet. I don't know. He launched that ball into outer space, and that came off the bat at about 200 miles an hour.
Did I say Delgado? I meant Bautista. Sorry.
No, I thought. Delgado might have been a little bit. He was on that. Was he on that squad? He was on the Blue Jays at one point. Wasn't he? It was 2015 series, right?
Yeah. It was the Jose Bautista home run.
Now I'm looking up Carlos Delgado
against Texas.
I know he played for the Mets. For a while.
Anyway, all right, we'll stop there. And Stephen, thank you as always.
Thank you,
listener, reader, watcher. I don't know. Does anybody read the transcript?
I love that. No, please. We will have you on. We'll interview you.
I would love to know. All these AI I've found myself when I don't have the ability to listen to a podcast because I'm otherwise occupied, I will find myself just scrolling through the transcript sometimes, and I'm like, what am I doing? But it actually kind of makes sense.
One of my favorite episodes was when you guys, Will, you and Will were talking about the AI summary button for these videos. I'm like, who's using this? I'm sitting on YouTube. We're gonna hit the summary button, and do the developers and engineers live on the same planet that we do? And that made me laugh. But
honestly, though, those summaries are terrible. I've never understood why anybody would use that summary button on YouTube. Because it doesn't actually tell you what the person thought. It just gives you this milquetoast summary of the video. And anyway, I will spare you.
I want to tease something for next time too. We're going to talk about your dodgeball adventures.
Dude, I had such a good game last night.
Say, don't leave it for him. Make him wait for it. Make him wait for it, I think. No? Tease it?
All right, let's do it. All right, thank you for listening, for watching, for being here. We love you, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Now, here's Josh Brigadier with SportsCenter 5, powered by Xfinity Mobile.